yourself a favor. That's not what this video is about. It's back to the question and answer series, and you know, my apologies for just having this big gap in between the first questions and this question, but I think we put some good stuff up there, and I'm kind of glad that the last question turned into a mini series of sorts. Got to help a lot of people with that, so yeah, but back on track now. This question's about volume adjustments when you are dieting, and here it goes. So in my opinion, fat loss phases can be classified into three different categories. Little balance beam here. Okay, so three different categories. You have your mini cut, which is really quick in and out, and for that one, you know what, I don't think you need to make any adjustments, just because it's really brief, really quick. You're just getting it out the way so that you can continue progressing, okay? This is something I would recommend more so for a younger, less developed athlete. And then you have your extended fat loss phase, which is, you know, usually when it's time to cash in the gains we've made. And then you have your pre-contest diet, which is for the maniacs out there, the crazies. And the last two, those who probably at some point will warrant some adjustments made to training volume, okay? And, you know, just shooting from the hip, I would say that in most cases for a pre-contest diet or a fat loss phase, right around the 8th to 10th week of dieting, or 2 or 3 adjustments in, I would say it's probably a good time to start kind of tapering off some of the more glycogen dependent work. So that's probably the first thing I would pick on. I would try to leave my my volume in the higher tension sets, the ones that, you know, my heavier movements, my prime movers. I would try to kind of leave that alone. I would leave that alone and pick on the stuff that requires more fuel in the form of carbohydrates, which at this point they're most likely a little bit lower than we'd like. We don't necessarily eat enough to really keep up with the glycogen uptake that, you know, these rep ranges seem to stimulate. So, you know, the rep ranges in the, you know, 8 to 15 in most cases. You know, the stuff that, you know, has a little bit more of a metabolic component to it. So that stuff would be the first stuff to go. And one thing this will do is it will definitely help you in terms of your recovery. You'll be able to hang on to your big lifts a little bit more, and also you won't be running around as flat as you are used to when you're dieting, which means it leverages that we're kind of, you know, tampered with a bit. You know, you might find some relief there. So I know that when I kind of cut down on those, you know, I kind of inflate a bit, just a tad bit more, where it makes my leverages a bit more humane on my bigger lifts, which allows me to keep more strength, which again, you know, lets me keep more of the muscle that I earned during my gaining phases. Let's see. And one thing I would say is that if you are a very gifted athlete in your extremities, meaning you have some really sick arms or calves, quads, hams, I would say that a lot of the single joint stuff can kind of even be tossed out the window, especially in the case of the guys that are pre-contest dieting. When you get to those phases, you know, the really hard phases, you can totally throw those out, because, you know, your biceps are going to get a lot of work from the pulling, or enough work from the pulling, and, you know, your triceps are going to get enough work from the pushing. In my case, when I'm really deep into my dieting, hardly ever will you find me doing leg extensions, just because my quads seem to do a good job of hanging around. So yes, you know, you can go that option, but that is for that applies to a few folks, but I definitely want to throw that out there. And, you know, the thing is that, again, it's harder to attain than it is to maintain. So you can totally bring down just everything at a certain point for the course of a few weeks, down to about a third of its regular volume, and you maintain, you know, what you work so hard for during your gaining phase, you know. But I would definitely start with the higher rep work, and then I would eventually, if I have to, pick on the higher, the more intensity, the higher intensity work, And one thing is for sure is that if you're ready early for your competition, and you know, once you're done with your fat loss phase, you can slowly start to bring in all that work, because you're going to be bringing food back in, and then what's going to happen is that a lot of the fullness that was lost during the dieting phases, you're going to regain it. And you know what? You're going to see that it wasn't very hard to again reestablish those baselines in terms of your usual volume that you use, you know, during any other time, any other phase of your training year, which again will kind of prove to you that crap, you know, I can bring things down for a few weeks, and for the most part, things do a good job of holding on. So that's how I would cut volume. Wait until the 8th or 10th week, or 2 or 3 adjustments in. Start with the volume work. If you are very gifted when it comes to your extremities, and you can cut those out. If you have Kevin Riley arms, stop doing bicep curls. If you have Smiley Elmore arms, stop doing bicep curls. But hardly ever is that the case. And if you do find yourself in a position where you have to bring down volume quite a bit, then you know, you can cut everything down to up to 1/3. But as you bring food up, because you're ready early or because your extended fat loss phase is over, then I would definitely, you know, concurrently with my food coming up, bring up the workload as well. Okay, guys, hope that helps. And one more to go for this month.